But I want to come and say, look at Libya. The violence that was meted on Libya by the President of United States, by the magisterium of France and England, European Union, that bombed Libya back into the dark ages under the guise of human rights. They should have been the one who were indicted even right away.
That's the point.
So I agree with you. There is a lack of
focus.
The focus. It looks like colonial masters are using ICC for their purposes. Mr. Joram.
Yes.
Isn't it true that some of you in opposition, you are in opposition,
yes,
are seeking to use, when you fail at the ballot box,
yes,
you are seeking to use these European courts to create problems for the local African leaders so that you can effect a regime change ipso by remote?
Mr. SEMPA, Pastor SEMPA, for your information, you should know, I am a true son of Africa and a Pan-Africanist. And I don't like what those people do. And if there is any agent of neo-colonialism in this country, it is President Museveni. He's an agent of neo-colonialism. I am fighting neo-colonialism. That's why I'm even trying to go to court to drop the name Joram and use Bintamanya Apuli, because I have never seen any white man called Bintamanya or Sempa or Yorumba. So they just dropped their names
but
here.
But there are some white men who are called Chizito. Many of these Catholic martyrs, their names were canonized. And now I was looking in America. There is Saint Imbaga, there is Gonzaga. In fact, if you Google, you can find many Americans who are calling their children Gonzaga. So if you are using that argument, we will discuss that.
As I answer my question, personally, I don't believe in violence. I believe in democratic means, using a democratic process to reach where you want. That's why we have always participated in elections, and I disagree with any leader, whether in opposition or anywhere, who wants to use violence. Because when you use violence, our own people die for no good reason, and other people come and benefit. We have gone through that. History can really tell.
When you say violence, what do you mean by that? Is that using the gun, using tear gas?
Violence, using guns, and I'm not very comfortable even when I see Kaihura or President Museveni or NRM government suppressing its citizens, suppressing the people of this country, and they are here to.
While I agree with you, I want to talk about that issue. I want to now to juxtapose away from the individuals, and I want to take it to the higher level. We are talking about the principle of violence. I put it to you that the ICC is being used for legal violence against perceived threats of the status quo of the European hegemony in Africa.
You could be right. You could be right, but the intention of ICC is not very bad. When they formed the ICC, we all celebrated, because African leaders, as I said, are very rich, extremely rich.
I did not celebrate. I felt it was a threat to us.
No, at first I celebrated because I wanted an institution that could really check African leaders, because they are very strong. They use state machinery to crush their opponents. They use guns. They use each and every means. They use manipulation, like these parliaments. All parliaments that we have in Africa have been manipulated. We don't have any parliament here in Uganda. We don't have any parliament in Congo. We don't have parliament in Sudan. We don't have parliament anywhere. So that is the only institution that could really check these dictators of Africa.
You really think so?
Yes.
Isn't Joram's hope misplaced? He presents a legitimate problem. That yes, there is abuse, sometimes excessive power, sometimes there is use of violence. Should we look to Berlin, to the Hague, very few kilometers away from where the Committee of Berlin Conference was sat? Should we look to the same grandsons of the grandfathers who sat to petition and balkanize Africa? Can we expect? Isn't this a case of cutting off a leg because we have a jigger?
Pastor Sempa,
let me hear from
as I answer this, let him come. Instead of doing away with the ICC, let us organize ourselves as Africans, either form our own court that would really check our African leaders, or we ask ICC to reform and reorganize itself, so that it is not seen as if it is witch hunting African leaders and only African.
Are you the same person who's trying to get rid of your European name?
Me?
How can you say that I want an European to create justice for me, and yet you fundamentally disagree with having an European first name?
ICC is not an European court. ICC is International Criminal Court.
Who pays the bills of ICC? I want to educate
every member.
No, I want to bring to you that the major donors of the ICC by level of funding is France, Germany, England, followed by Belgium and others. The money that Uganda and others and other countries give is so minuscule. It is simply platonic and symbolic.
If I can come in.
So at the end of the day, just like East African community, who is paying for the bills of East African community?
If I can come in, Mr. Martin.
Yes.
I think who pays the bill for the ICC for me could be besides the point. What we should be considering is, regardless of who pays more than the other, what do we stand for? What is the principle, cardinal principle of why we have ICC? ICC is International Criminal Court. It was not meant for only Africans. Those countries I've mentioned could be paying because they have more money than us.
Yes.
In fact, after paying ICC, they come and pay for YALA here, East African Legislative Assembly. They come and pay for some projects in Africa. It's because they have. But that does not mean that you get rid of my right as a leader of an African country, that you get rid of my right to say no to homosexuality in Uganda. It's a different thing. Mr. SEMPA, at your home you are the one who pays bills. Does that mean that your daughter, your wife, your son, I mean, they're not free?
We need to take a break, but I want to put it to you, gentlemen. Before the ICC came into place, there was the ICJ, International Court of Justice,
yes,
which was doing a case where the two nations were in dispute. They can be able to come together and issues on an international level could be resolved. The formation of the ICC, on the other hand, creating a similar law where you must have similar values. For example, homosexuality is an issue of contention. For the European, it's a human right. For the African, it's a human vice. But ICC has put into its sex war crimes protocol that the preaching and the teaching and the laws and the values of Africa against homosexuality constitute a crime against humanity. We're going to take a break. When we do come back, we're going to face this issue. Is it possible to have a one size that fits all, or is it really not possible? Stay with us. You're on Africa Have You Say, but more importantly, this is SEMPA 360.